tired of hitting poor shots and shooting high scores? Wouldn't it be nice to make solid, consistent contact more often? Hit more fairways off the tee and more greens with your approach shots. Lower your 3 putts per round and shoot lower scores consistently. Lessons with Bernard Sheridan at Impact Zone Golf at Tiburon Golf Club in Naples is the fastest way to lower your scores and start making the game fun again. Call 239-236-5536 and schedule your lesson today. Remember, if you improve your impact, you improve your game. It's that simple.
Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf podcast that interviews the best and brightest minds in the golf industry. Now, here's your host, Bernard Sheridan.
Mike, welcome to Breaking Par. Thanks for being with us today.
Bernard, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So, I know there's a lot of people out there who know you, who know your name. You've been around for quite a while. I know that I've seen articles by you when I was just starting out and have always liked what you've done. And so tell us first, what was the first time that you actually picked up a golf club? And then when did that aha moment come when you said, you know what? I really think I could do this for a living.
Well, the first time I picked up a club was probably when I was 11 years old. And I was playing other sports, but my dad and uncles played golf, and I used to caddy for my dad. And that's what got me started. And by the time I was 15, I dropped everything else, just wanted to play golf. And I was a late bloomer, if you will. Didn't play some really good golf till senior in high school, and then got a scholarship to go to LSU and played there. And I went into accounting, and my parents said, well, what are you going to take in school? And my dad was an accountant. I had uncles that were accountants, and I used to work for them to pay for my golf tournaments. And so when it came time to go to school, what are you going to take? I said, well, I guess accounting. But by the time I was a junior in college, I figured out I wasn't doing accounting. And I knew I was going to do something in the golf, but I didn't know what it was. And I got a call. I lived in Baton Rouge at the time, grew up there. And I got a call to go to Hilton Head, South Carolina, to join a friend of mine who was working at Palmetto Dunes. And so I joined him, working outside service, just like a lot of people starting the golf business. And I met Sandy, my wife Sandy.
Yeah.
She was for the University of Georgia. And we got together and enjoyed each other's company. And then I find out her dad is Jack Lumpkin.
Wow.
And yeah. And
I didn't even know that. That's like a.
Thanks.
I didn't even know that.
And,
That's awesome.
yeah. So then I go to meet the parents at some point down the road, and Jack, we took a liking to each other, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to teach in the morning. Would you like to come out and watch me teach?" Because I was teaching a few lessons here and there, but all I knew at the time was keep your head down, left arm straight, and shift your weight. So I said, "Yeah, I'd like to go watch you teach." And so I'm watching Jack, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know any of this stuff. And it was fascinating watching him help students so fast and so simple. And so then I told him how much I enjoyed it, and I was heading back to Hilton Head. He says, well, why don't you come back sometime? I said, when and where? When can I come? So that kind of got me launched into teaching. And I went to a private club, Sea Pines Club course at the time, and started teaching there. And then Jack ended up bringing me to Pinehurst. Interviewed me to be his assistant. He was with the Golf Digest schools at the time. And Golf Digest used to come in there and do adult schools 8 to 10 weeks a year and do junior schools in the summer. And Jack was the director of instruction at Pinehurst, but he was only there half the year. So he needed an assistant. So I was the guy. And Hank Haney was brought there at the same time. There was a big turnover at Pinehurst, so we all came in at the same time. And so I ended up helping with the Golf Digest schools and also helping Hank with the Golf Advantage schools, which was interesting, 2 different schools.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I could not have dreamed up a better learning environment than getting around all these people at one time. I was like, wow, I found myself possibly a wife and golf instructors that I can learn from.
Talk about hitting the jackpot. That's crazy. I mean, that really is crazy. I mean, it's like, you meet a gal and you think she's cute and you get to like her, and then next thing you know, she goes, oh yeah, well, gee, my dad does this, and then next thing you know, like, wow, holy moly, a whole career opportunity opens up, and that's a great story.
And then Hank Haney ended up marrying my sister.
How about that?
Yeah. And Hank and I worked together at Pinehurst for 3 years. They're not together any longer, but we're all still friends. We still talk, and I've made some great relationships along the way. I've been around some great teachers.
I bet.
So.
I bet. I mean, it's what a place to start. That's really an exciting story, and it's no wonder that you've been so successful in your career and have done so well.
Well, it was at Pinehurst when I really got to thinking I could make a career out of teaching, because I was doing it full time, and I was around Jack Lumpkin and Davis Love and Peter Costas and Bob Toski, Jim Flick, Chuck Cook, Paul Runyon, all these guys coming in every year, and you just start out teeing up balls for them, watching them give lessons, but lesson after lesson after lesson. And it's interesting. I mean, you and I have experienced a difference in the industry in that I look back how I learned how to teach, and it's totally different today. It seems like today more instructors go to seminars or certification courses, and you go 2 days and you get some information, but you really don't get to watch somebody. I wouldn't necessarily get to watch you go out and fix 10 people in a row. And at the end of the day, be able to ask you questions like, wow, that was really cool what you did with Bill. And we don't get that chance anymore. And it's really a lost art, if you will, that I really think trains teachers a lot better. Is because teaching golf to me is all about solving issues, solving problems.
Absolutely. Not
about theory. We can talk about anybody and everybody's theory. And people ask me all the time, hey, what's your theory? I don't know what to tell you. Let's see your golf swing. Let's talk to me about your golf game. Let's see if we can help your golf game.
Right.
You might not fit in anybody's theory. But so it was fascinating those years to learn where Hank was coming from. He was coming from the John Jacobs schools. So he had a totally different training that he had gotten through John Jacobs. And then Jack Lumpkin coming from the Golf Digest schools. It was fascinating for me to see different ways to solve issues. And then Hank and I would go to the Pinehurst Hotel, and we would do clinics with people coming out of dinner. And we would give a little 5 or 10 minute spiel on what we thought was important, and then open it up for questions and answers. And in no time, we could get somebody to describe their ball flight and give them a little something to go out with the next day. Hey, I want you to try this. Turn your grip over here, swing your club a little more like this or that. And they might come in at the end of the day and go, that really helped. Have you got time for a lesson tomorrow? And that built our business. It was incredible.
Now, when you went with to observe a lot of these guys, so what are some tips or traits that you saw that were similar between them, and then also that were different?
Well, as you know, with your impact zone, the things that are similar is that I haven't seen a good, successful instructor yet that doesn't start with ball flight and helping a student understand what their ball flight is. Because a lot of them, if you ask, what does your ball flight do? They say, well, it does everything. No, it doesn't. There's a pattern. And here's what your club is doing to the ball to make it look like that. And if you'd like to narrow that in a little bit, this is what we probably need to do with your swing, with your club. And Jack Lumpkin a long time ago got me thinking in the progression of ball club body in the way of diagnosis. Help a student understand what their ball flight is, because a lot of them don't understand why it curves or starts in a certain direction. And if you can help them be aware of what that is, and then what the club looks like coming into impact, you can't assume anything. You can't assume that a student understands what a shank is. When you say shank, some of them think it's off the toe and some of them think it's off the hosel. Yeah. So you can't assume anything there. And then finally, what do you need to do with your turn or your pivot or your weight shift or your grip, whatever it is, to make that club impact the ball differently and get it to fly like you want it to fly more often? So I haven't seen, that's what I see across the board with everybody we looked at, everybody we observed. And Hank and I, every winter, used to go try and observe somebody teaching. We'd travel wherever we had to go. And one year he said, Hank grew up with Jim Hardy in Chicago. And Jim had called and said, hey, I've got some new stuff that I'm working on. This is back in 1982. And he was at Palm Springs Muni at the time. And he said, why don't you get out here? And so Hank asked me, he said, hey, you want to go to Palm Springs? I said, absolutely, let's go. So we go out there for 2 weeks. And Jim taught from 7 o'clock to like 2 o'clock every day, booked 3 months in advance. So I'd show up for his 7 o'clock lesson and watch him diagnose, correct, and start coaching. Now that might take the first 15 or 20 minutes of a lesson. And then once I saw what he was going to coach them on in that lesson, I'd go hit some balls. I'd show up back at 8 o'clock because I wanted to see him do the interview, diagnose the problem, not the compensations, but the problem, and then do some corrections and watch him start coaching. I'd go hit some balls, show up again at 9. Anyway, I did this for a few days in a row. And after the second day, Jim comes walking down the range and he shows up and he says, hey, would you like some help? Because he could see that I needed help with my swing. Sure. It was funny, at LSU, I had the worst swing on the team. But I didn't know it at the time. I thought I had a fine swing. But as it turns out, what I understand now, I had the worst swing on the team, but I had the best short game. And I always tended to practice what I did well because it drove my ego.
Sure.
I didn't want to go hit balls because I didn't look good next to the other guys hitting balls, but I could score. And it's interesting growing up like that, what it teaches me today about teaching amateurs how to play the game and how to score, even when they feel like their swing is, my swing isn't right. I don't shift my weight right. I don't do this right. Yeah, but you can still score. You can still play better golf. You can still have more fun playing the game. You don't have to hit it perfect. And that's how I learned how to play. And then Jim saw me swing. I realized at that point that I was never going to get any better than college golf. And I had some of the top teachers trying to help me after college to fix my golf swing, and nothing was working. And it was almost like everybody was seeing my symptoms, no different than when I see students today. And they walk up and they'll say, Mike, I'm having trouble. When they come up and say, how can I help you? Well, I don't shift my weight right. I'm hitting off my back foot. I come over the top. I'm scooping at the bottom. I'm doing this, doing that. And I look at them and I go, you know what? Probably none of those things are the problem. You probably need to do those things to be able to find your golf ball. And we need to get to the root cause of the problem. And I'll ask them, how long have you been working on trying to shift your weight? 10 years. Well, if you look like a good athlete. You're a good athlete and you're trying to shift your weight and you haven't done it in 10 years. Did you ever stop to think that the problem might be somewhere else? That you're having to keep your weight back just so that you can find your golf ball. So these are the types of things that when you start thinking about it, you work your way backwards from impact and you go, why does this player not understand their impact? What are they doing coming into the golf ball so that they can find their ball? And the only way they can do it is by scooping it or staying on the back foot, so on and so forth. Because we see some decent players that can shoot in the 80s hitting off their back foot.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
they realize that I know this is not right. And I was in the same boat years ago, playing at the level that I was playing, college golf. And I joke about this all the time because, matter of fact, you might have seen a post not long ago I made when, after Wesley Bryan won Harbortown, and the announcer on TV said, Wesley Bryan just got up and down 27 out of 32 times. And I was having a conversation with my stepdad. And this went in one ear and out the other, but it went in there. And I thought to myself, wow, that's some serious up and down, right there. And the next morning I'm talking to somebody about short game, and I got to thinking, wait a minute, 32 times he missed 8 greens around and won a tour event. I was like, so I did this post. I said, how many greens do you have to hit in regulation to be, let's say, a 5 handicap? And everybody started writing back 12 greens, 13 greens, 11 greens, 10 greens. And that's not the case. The top 10 money winners hit just over 12 greens around. A 5 handicapper doesn't have to hit 2 greens in regulation to be a 5. And back when I was in college, I averaged 7 greens in regulation all 4 years. I was a +4. And when I tell people that, they're like, what? And what I found over the years is that most people, their short game is not nearly as good as it needs to be to score and play like they want to play. And it frustrated me to the point, back in 1989 even, I used to have all these players come out and I'd interview them. What's your handicap? I'm a 10. What brings you here? I want to be more consistent and I want 10 more yards. All right. How's your short game? My short game is pretty good. And I would think to myself, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I watch them hit balls on the tee and I'd go, and they looked like they swing the club reasonably well. And I would say, let me ask you a question. Do you drive the ball in play? Do you keep it in play? Do you drive it out of play? No, I'm in play. Okay, you're in play. Can you reach the greens in regulation? Yeah, I can reach the greens. I just don't hit enough of them. I'm like, how many do you hit? I don't know, about 9. And you're a 10. And your short game is good? Yeah, my short game is good. Something doesn't add up here. So it led me to a short game course, a short game evaluation, because I kept getting frustrated with these golfers that they'd come back, after a series of lessons. How do you feel about your swing? I feel like I'm swinging better. I feel like I'm hitting it more consistent. I feel like I'm hitting it a little bit farther. And my wife, Sandy, just walked in. And I'd say, what's your handicap now? I'm still a 12. There's some missing link here, some missing ingredient. So I came up with this. I was teaching Howard Twitty at the time, who was playing the tour. And Howard Twitty made a living with his wedge and a putter. So I said, and I used to listen to Howard talk to young players, whether it was junior golfers or high school players or college players, and he would them after talking to them for a little while. He'd say, look, all you have to do is drive your ball on the property, control the distance of your wedges, and putt. You'll kill them. While somebody's there practicing with their 4-iron. And he would say, look, practice your wedges more. And he was right. So I came up with this 8-hole par 72 short game test that takes about 12 minutes to play. And sure enough, I would take these players through this course, and they weren't even close to what they needed to be to convert an up and down. And everything was based on stats that Howard had learned from Dave Pelz of what percentages they make from different distances and how close you have to be from 100 yards out, 60 yards out, 50 yards out. It was fascinating, and it still works today. I just ran the course this past week with some players. It doesn't lie. It's unbelievable.
And you find that that's the fastest way for them to lower their handicap, yes?
Without a doubt. They, you know, golfers today, what I find myself doing with players of every level, sometimes we do corporate outings, and you might only see a student for 5 minutes before they go tee off. And you're looking to give them maybe a little something that might help them understand how to eliminate some of their slice or hit a pitch shot a little bit better. All right, have fun today. Off they go. You never see them again. But oftentimes, Sandy and I see students that approach us and they want to play better golf. I think I can play better golf. So then you have to come up with a business plan for them and talk to them and find out what's in their head, how they analyze their game, what they think they're good at, what they're not good at, see if it matches what you're seeing, and come up with a plan going forward to address the 4 areas that I think create every golfer's performance. And those 4 areas are ball striking, how you move the ball from tee to green, and we could talk about what's necessary here. And all that's necessary, if you hit the ball adequate distance, is that you drive it on the property. I never ask anybody, how many fairways do you hit? But I do ask, how many drives do you hit out of play? How many penalty shots are you having off the tee? Then number 2, are you hitting some greens? And if they say yes, I'm then asking, how close are you? Start talking about proximity, because I could show you 2 players that are 10 handicap and one player's killing the other one because he can hit a wedge close to the hole occasionally. So ball striking is number 1. Number 2, your command of a wedge, which I find is where they're throwing away more shots. And when I say command of a wedge, I'm talking about, can they hit a pitch over a bunker? Can they hit a bunker shot? Can they chip it with a wedge if it requires a chip with a wedge? Can they hit a shot 45 yards on command? Can they hit it 75 yards on command? Partial shots. Now, you wouldn't expect a 15 handicapper to be able to hit a 45-yard shot, but we've got to be able to hit the green. They missed the green.
Yeah.
45 yards. So they might hit a drive that they don't like. I sliced that one. It didn't feel very good. It's not supposed to look like that. Then they hit a second shot up there, 30 yards from the green. I missed that shot too. I should be hitting it better than this. The better the player, they walk up there to that 30-yard shot, and they give themselves an opportunity. The worse the player, they miss the green from 30 yards out, and they might put themselves in a worse place than they are 30 yards in front of the green. And they wonder why, God, I made 4 doubles today and 2 triples. It's usually with a wedge. And if the wedge is always putting you 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet, your putting stats are going to look terrible, which is the third part of that business plan. And the final part of the business plan is your mental game. Can you think your way around the golf course? Can you strategize? Can you keep yourself in somewhat of a state that you can still perform? Some people get too excited, some get too down. But picking targets, being able to take a student around a golf course, and Sandy and I end up doing that, it seems way more today than we used to. Even in some of the early lessons, you take them out there on the golf course and you go, okay, let's play this shot right here. What are you thinking? And they go, well, that's a perfect 8-iron right at the pin to me. And they're looking at a target that they're going to hit it in trouble 75% of the time. And they don't see that. And to help them understand what their shot pattern looks like with an 8-iron and where they're going to fit it on that target is something that most amateurs don't see. And if you had a good caddy would tell you, okay, I realize that's a perfect 8-iron at that flag, but we need to go that bush behind the green. Go right at that bush right there and hit it this yardage and commit to that shot. We don't practice like that. We don't play like that as amateurs. So ball striking, command of a wedge, command of a putter, and better mental strategy, better control of yourself on the golf course. These are all part of what we look at as for every golfer that comes up. How can I help this person? And a lot of times I find that I could have helped a student over lunch. We find out through talking that I've never looked at the game like this. I've never thought about this. I've never practiced. I don't practice that much with my wedges. We could have talked about all this at lunch and sent them out with a program that I'm going to get better. But if you give them and I was guilty of this as a young instructor, somebody would want to come in and sign up for a series of lessons. Okay, I've got a package of 6. We're going to do 6 lessons. And I'd say, what would you like to work on? I want to be more consistent and I want to hit it farther. So you go spend 6 lessons working on trying to deliver what they want. And at the end of 6 lessons, how do you feel like we're doing? I'm feeling better. I think I'm hitting a little farther. What's your handicap? I'm still a 15. That's a crime. Don't you think?
I think the problem with it usually, too, is that a lot of students, and I know that I deal with, because I try to get them we're working on impact all the time. So a lot of times the way that I'm starting my lessons are, first I'll do an assessment, and I'll see, like, what are they doing? What's their path? Get to know, ask, give them a little interview. And then from there, a lot of times, the first thing I'm going to say to them is, okay, so go get your wedge. And they'll look at me like, why do I want to get my wedge? I thought we were working on my, on my ball striking with my 7-iron right now.
Exactly.
I said, yeah, we are. Go get your wedge. And then I try to get them to start to be a little bit more consistent in taking small shots with their wedge and controlling the distance and also controlling the path. And what are they doing to control the path? And how are they shifting their weight? And are they doing all these things? And I say, let's try to get this down first. Let's try to get your divot a little bit ahead of the ball. Let's try to get your weight shifted a little bit. I said, you don't have to hit it hard. You just have to hit a little pitch here. I just want you to hit it 30 yards.
Right.
And then I'll grab an 8-iron, and I'll tell them to do the same thing with an 8-iron. I want you to hit it 30 yards. I don't want you to hit it 140 yards. I just want you to hit an 8-iron 30 yards. That's it.
A hard time doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really difficult for them to do that. But once they start to be able to control that, now they're starting to understand what it takes to get that divot a little bit ahead, to get their a little bit more control, to get a little bit more of their what we call workhorse involved, their body, their core a little bit more, delivering the club head, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Then I'll start to move them a little bit more into full swing, and I'll give them those drills to take with them, and then I'll say to them, look, I want you to do this, and the next time you come, we're going to work on this same thing, and we're going to chip to the green. And we're going to hit little shots over the bunker. And we're going to do that. And then at the end of the lesson, we'll hit some full shots and see how that goes.
Yeah.
And I find that when I do that, they'll come back and they'll say, hey, you know what? It's crazy, but that little chip that those little chips that I was working on, I'm really getting it closer to the hole now, and I'm striking my irons better too.
Right.
Because they're starting to figure it out.
That's correct. And the chipping, I do the same thing in my lessons. As soon as they come out for full swing, I ask them to pitch one. I want to see their pitch. And I usually video the everything, their full swing, face on down line, and I video the pitch. And a lot of times you can show them, here's the error across the board, why you're having trouble with your full swing and why you're having trouble pitching it close. And in that short game course, when I get a student that says they want to spend a little time together, I take them through that short game course, the first lesson. And it's interesting because I get to see them hit all the different shots, and I get to see them hit them under pressure, just like you're playing golf, because they know I'm scoring, and they're trying to perform. So you see some different things under pressure than you would taking a student over and going, let me see you hit a couple of chip shots. And if they miss one out, I don't usually do that. Let me try another one.
Yeah.
And but if they have to hit 3 shots and they're scored, you see something different. Then when I find an error in pitching or chipping, whatever it is, and we address that issue and we say, okay, let's go work on your pitching a little bit. And then we go over and work on full swing. I'll bring them back over. I'll go, okay, time out. Let's go hit 3 pitches now, like we're going to score, which is how you play golf. So instead of going, okay, let's go take a basket of balls, of which let's take 3 balls again and go rescore your pitching. Let's see if we can do better. So they're under pressure again, and they've got this new technique that might work, but you can see that you're hitting better shots, and let's keep working on that. And I'm going to retest you every time you come out, and we're going to get this pitch where you own it. And that stuff goes to the bottom line. You want stuff that goes right to the bottom line. But somebody hitting their 6-iron better, feeling like they're hitting it better, doesn't necessarily go to the bottom line. Unless you're hitting a 6-iron 6 feet, which isn't going to happen.
Right.
You're going to miss the green more than you're going to hit it 6 feet. So over the years, I think I've just gotten to where I look at parts of the game that are going to make a difference in somebody's performance and enjoyment of the game, rather than working on things that I know they might feel better about it. And if a student is asking to hit their 6-iron better and more consistent, you have to give it to them. You have to give them something to leave with. But I'm not going to leave with just that, or have them leave with just that. I'm going to have them leave with something that's going to change that handicap or change their enjoyment of the game. So,
I mean, I think that, when we look at the majority of players what they do when they practice, they're never practicing that stuff.
No.
They're just not. I mean, they go to the driving range. Some of the driving ranges they go to don't even have a short game area. I know that when I was up in Pennsylvania, I'm down in Florida now, but when I was up in Pennsylvania, very few of the driving ranges, unless they were at a golf course, had a short game area also. And even some of them that were at golf courses didn't have a short game area. So they really either didn't have the opportunity to practice this, or they would actually just forgo it and just hit driver. I never see anybody hit driver so much as I do when I go to the range. And then they'll hit some irons. I hardly see any of them hit wedges. A lot of the guys I might see hit a few wedges. Most of the guys that I know don't even take their whole bag to the range. They'll take a driver, they'll take like a mid-iron, and a wedge. And they'll take those 3 clubs, and that's what they'll practice. As opposed to like maybe trying to hit all different types of shots, feel what they're trying to do, and hit different clubs along the way too. And then also work on short game stuff too. So a few technical difficulties there, but we're back, needless to say. And so what we were discussing and what we were talking about was before Skype kind of went awry on us, was that a lot of players, they don't practice their short game stuff. They go to the range, they bring like 2 or 3 clubs, they're hitting like driver, 7-iron, maybe a wedge a little bit. They're never really working on like 40-yard shots or chips or around the green or things like that.
You see it at every range too.
Yep. And the other thing you see at every range too is a big bucket of balls, and they just keep pulling them over and hitting them, and pulling them over and hitting them, and pulling them over and hitting them. So, and pretty much all they're doing is just ingraining the same problem,
right?
And not relieving it. So what are some of the things that you have your students do to practice, and to get out of this vicious cycle that everybody seems to be in?
Right. I don't know if you saw my latest post on my short game course where I had Cheyenne. I did a little video to music, and I had Cheyenne Woods do a short version of my short game course. And it can't take 10 minutes to play. And I promise you, if every student did this little deal, they would get better at golf. And in it, at a lot of golf courses, you'll have a green.
Yep.
And if you had a place where you could hit a chip and a pitch, maybe not even a bunker shot, you could play a few of the holes. So on the course, there's 2 half wedges, which you can't find that at most golf courses. And so then when I ran Cheyenne through this small version, she did a pitch over a bunker shot, a chip shot, lag putting, a 20-foot putt, and 8 3-foot putts. And it's 3 balls at each station. And the scoring system is based on whether you hit the ball in the hole inside of 3 feet, which we're confident we can get it up and down. If you hit it inside of 6 feet, which is a good shot, but no guarantee that you can get up and down.
Right.
Or anywhere on the green. And there's a little scoring system, and I posted it. I need to put this same thing on YouTube so that more people can get to it. But it shows Cheyenne running through it in fast motion. So I condensed it down in a 4-minute video. And I guarantee if every student spent 10 minutes, not just practicing your short game, because you and I both have told students, you need to work on your short game. And they come back and they go, I worked on my short game. But what does that mean? How close are you hitting it? Are you hitting it close enough where it's going to do you any good? So until they actually can measure those 3 chip shots, did I get it to the distance I need? If not, let's go practice a little bit and retest. But that's and I have a number of my students, every once in a while I get refocused on the short game course, and I get certain students, I want you to do this every day. When you come back, I'm going to retest you. And it's no different than a kid going to school and the teacher putting them through a test. We're going to have a test, see if you learn the material. Because
yeah, I mean, that's huge. I mean, because if they do that kind of stuff, they're going to learn how to score more than just how to just hit a golf ball.
And a lot of times we find that, just as you do, that somebody that's trying to hit 3 chips into a circle, they can't do it because of their technique. And if you can show them, let's do this technique, and you can see you're getting better contact. And better contact leads to better feel. Because a lot of students will tell you, I have no feel around the greens.
Yeah.
Basically telling me you have no contact is what you're telling me. Now, if I get your contact consistent and better, you can acquire feel. You know when you hit one short and when you hit one long. But if the contact is poor, you don't know what's coming. So it gives us an opportunity as teachers to see when they go through a little test like this that their pitching technique is so poor they can't hit the green 3 times in a row, much less hit it in a circle. And if you can't do that, you can't score. I don't care how good you hit your 6-iron.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it all comes back down to impact, and if that impact isn't correct, then they're not going to get the results that they want. And if that impact is correct, and they start to understand that feeling of what is correct, now when they don't do it correctly, they can immediately go, oh, I know exactly what I did there. I either threw my hands, or I hit it fat, or I hit that off the toe, or that was a little bit closer to the heel. And it's amazing how I found that just in one session, they start to recognize that.
Right.
And now they can start to adjust and to make things better by working on it and understanding, okay, I know what I did. Because I think a lot of players, they don't even know what they did. They have no idea.
No. And once you're aware of that and you can start making better contact, your athletic ability can take over. So that when you see a target 10 yards away, this amount of swing hits it that far. And when you see one 30 yards away, this much more swing hits it that far. But if the contact is so poor, you look at a 30-yard shot and you go, I need about this much motion, and you make contact this far behind the ball, and it goes 10 yards. On the next one, you're swinging bigger.
Yeah.
And if you hit it solid, you're over the green. And then you're like, I have no touch. Yep. Of course you don't. You don't know what's coming out of the barrel.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, if how can you have good touch if you can't make solid contact with the ball because you never know what the heck's going to happen, and
And
there's
even
nothing to gauge it by.
that's right. And even if a sports psychologist tells you you need to visualize the shot better, like I'm trying, coach. But I'm visualizing 3 different ones. I visualize the good one. Unfortunately, I have enough pictures of the fat one that ends up right there and some that scream over the green. They're all in there. And I'm shooting for the good one, but until you see that good one coming out more and more and more often where you expect it to come out, that's the true definition of confidence in my book, in golf.
Yeah.
Confidence is expecting a result and truly surprised if you don't get it. Now that's the way a good player is when they have a wedge in their hand hitting over a bunker. You're not going to see them dumping in the bunker. They're going to hit it on the green every time and they're expecting to get close. But if you have a student that's hit 3 in the bunker, 3 on the green, and 3 sculled over the green, they don't know what to expect. And to ask them to visualize the good one, that's a good intent. But all it takes is one bad one before I'm shot again.
Well, and they're apprehensive about what they're about to do, too, which makes it more difficult for them to make a good shot because they're so afraid that they're holding back because they're so afraid that they're going to mess it up. But then when you watch a tour pro do it and they miss, they go they have this surprised look on their face, like they can't believe that they missed, especially when you see them miss putts and they just go I can't believe that just missed. And that's because in their mind, they're making it. And, and they're confident about what they're about to do. And then when they miss it, they can't believe that they missed it.
Yeah. Now, Bernard, we know this is important, but it's not the sexy part of the game, right? No. Nobody wants to practice short game. Nobody wants to practice their pitching. They want full swing help. Do we want to talk a little bit about full swing?
Sure. Absolutely.
We got a few minutes?
Yeah, we definitely got a few minutes.
I want to show you, I'm going to stand up and I want to show you a couple of things that I've come up with lately that when I show people this, they go, I'd never thought of this like that. Okay, so think about in golf, we have, am I in the picture okay? I'm good?
You're good.
Okay, so we know in golf that there's a body pivot, right?
Yes.
There's a body pivot, and if you look at other sports like throwing, baseball, hockey, tennis, golf, there is a body pivot. So if you took your golf club away and your arms away, folded them across your chest, we know that the body has to work something like that, right? And if I turn this way, it has to turn back and through. And we could talk about some different ways to do that because we've heard people talk about using the ground, getting into the ground, exploding out of the ground. You've heard people talk about staying left when you turn, getting more back to the right when you turn. All of that information is correct.
Yeah. For
somebody.
That's correct.
For somebody.
Yeah.
But can we agree that the body, the core, all these fitness people that are working on the core, it's all grit. And in some form or another, your body has to turn this way and this way in a golf swing.
Absolutely.
And Sandy and I are actually doing some programs with fitness people because we find a lot of people that are working out. I'm stronger in my core. I feel like I'm stronger in my legs, but they still don't know how to move like a golfer.
Right.
When we say, what exercise are you doing? Well, I'm doing medicine ball this way, this way. That's not your golf swing. How are you going to translate that to something that looks like I'm making a golf movement and in a pace that my golf swing needs to move it and balance like a golf swing. All right, so we could have a discussion about that. Let's go one step further. Let's say my body doesn't move, and you ask me, what is the function of the arms in a golf swing? Well, first of all, this is a swing. How many times you see a kid just doing this? Just swinging their arms. And swing them up here and swing them down and swing them up again. A lot of people have lost the swing in their golf swing. They put the club over here and they put the club over here. There's no swing. Okay? And if you looked at the swinging of the arms, if I didn't move, this would be my backswing, and this would be my downswing. Now, if I turn this way, and I move my arms up like this, and I turn my body 90 degrees, I would be roughly where I need to be, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, in the arm swing, we see some players like a Dustin Johnson who has an upright arm swing, and he's got his wrist bowed at the top. There's other players like Matt Kuchar who has a lower arm swing. But if I'm standing here and not moving my body, that'd be the difference between there's neutral, there's a little higher, there's a little lower. Do they all work? Yes, for somebody. So, but there has to be some swinging of the arms up and down. And my through swing would look like this. So basically in a golf swing, this is what your arms are doing, up, down, up again. If I take this right here and turn 90 degrees, I've got to finish. And once you start describing this to people, because if my arm swing is going over here, my body has to do something pretty funky to match up with that.
Yeah.
And we could say that this body turn that we do and this arm swing that we do have to be coordinated together. And we as instructors have to find the right move for each individual. I can't tell you this is where yours should be, in theory. But each student that comes out, somebody that has the arm swings stuck right here, there is no body turn that's going to give you any distance until you've got your arms swinging this way. And a student ought to be able to take their arms and swing up this way over the right shoulder, this way over the left shoulder. This is basically your arm swing. This is the only part that's going to swing in a golf swing. Your body doesn't swing. It just pivots to make room for the swing.
I remember years ago, as I'm watching you do that, I remember years ago an instructor that I worked with, and he said, it's like throwing a bucket of water over your shoulder.
Exactly.
Throw a bucket of water over your shoulder. Throw a bucket of water over your shoulder. Very similar to that.
In some form or another, we have to do that. And I had this guy the other day who was swinging the club, and he was just going right to here and swinging through like this. And he said, I can't get my arms up that high. And I took the club away from him, and I told him, I said, can you just do this for me? And he goes up there just like this. I said, no, do it to the right side of your face. I said, does that hurt? He goes, no, I can do that. All right, do that and turn a little bit. And he's like, I never thought of it that way. You know, going up and down like that. So before long, I had him swinging back and forth like this and swinging with a golf club, the same thing, no different, taking a golf club and swinging it this way and this way. And you'll see a lot of people that go through the shot like this. That's not a release. That'd be like taking your club from here and going this way with it, just with a turn. You see? But if they can feel that right there, and this turn, all of a sudden, you're like, well, that makes sense. And so as a golfer, you're trying to coordinate this motion with a pivot back down. If I was to swing my arms up here and pivot first without swinging the arms down, I'm over the top. If I was to swing the arms down like this without turning through, now I'm under the plane. So we're basically, in one form or another, there's some latitude here to coordinate these movements as we hit a golf ball, where your arms are swinging and your body is pivoting. And the same thing on the through swing side, in one form or another. That's too simple, isn't it?
It's always, us as humans, I've found, seem to overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
And especially emotion that can, when you look at the golf swing, can look extremely complex.
Right.
But it's a lot simpler than people make it out to be. They make it a lot more difficult than it really is.
Yeah. And the final thing on that is most people don't know how much they have to exaggerate to neutralize their swing. So just the last few days, I had one guy that had arms over here, trying to swing around like this, and I had another guy that had the club straight up and down this way. So for one of them, I had to try to, with a guy like this, he felt like he was going this way.
Yeah.
With a turn, lifting his arms straight up in the air while pivoting. The other guy that had the straight up and down swing, I had to get him to feel like that he was swinging the club normal backswing and then dropping the club back behind his hip and then swinging it around like this. And he couldn't. That's why you have to use video, because I tell students to do some things that are so exaggerated sometimes that if I didn't have a camera to show them, they would think I'm off my rocker.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I had a student yesterday, and I said to him, I only want you to swing halfway back.
Yeah.
And when he swung halfway back, he was in a full swing.
Full swing.
And it wasn't even, and I was just trying to get him to swing waist high.
Right.
And he was way up here in a full swing. And then when he did a full swing, he was like a la John Daly.
Yeah.
And he said, and then when he looked at it on video, he said, I felt like I was right at hip high. Right. And I'm not. And I said, well, that's what's going to happen. I said, your body, it's going to feel things differently because you're not used to feeling it. So it's going to feel exaggerated to you.
Right.
And there, now that I got you swinging like you feel like you're halfway back, now you're where you need to be. You're not over-rotating. You're not doing a lot of extra things. You're staying a lot more within yourself, and you're making a better swing, and now we're starting to see better results.
Right. And, back to this business plan that I was talking about, a lot of people think they need to change their swing. And we can do that for you. But is it really going to make you a better player? So that's why as a coach, you have to look at it and go, yeah, your swing could be a little bit better, but is that really costing you all these strokes? Could you play better golf with your inferior swing, if you will? The answer is yes, with better wedge play, better putting, better course management. But if you insist on wanting to make your swing better, don't be afraid to get uncomfortable. Because a lot of times they tell us, when you ask them to do something different, that feels weird. In fact, the other day, what somebody tell me? That feels funky. I'm like, well, we know what comfortable's producing.
Right.
Comfortable's producing exactly what you've been doing for 10 years in a row. You want something different? You want something that's going to perform different? Now, number one, are you prepared to spend enough time to create a habit? Because sports psychologists will tell you, you can't break a bad habit. You can replace it with a better one, but when you step on that first tee, you know that your inferior swing can produce the results that you normally see, and you can go play with anybody. We're afraid to let go of that. And if you truly want a good swing, you have to be willing to let go of that a little bit.
Yep. And
create a better habit. But a better habit takes a lot of reps.
No, it's true. That's true.
And
I mean, it takes at least 1,000 for sure.
And it starts with a better understanding. So when somebody says this game is all mental, I don't quite agree with that, but I do look at it like your mental picture of what this game is all about and what you have to do to play better. That stuff that you put into this computer right here is going to spit out what you're doing at the golf ball.
Yep.
So until you change that understanding and that picture of how this is all supposed to work more simple for you as a golfer, you're likely not to do it. And a lot of times we leave lessons with this piece of information, all this information from these, all this technology that we have today. But is it really doing us that much good? You have to have a pretty clear picture of what you want and then do enough reps and have a coach. I'm always trying to teach students to coach themselves. I don't want that student asking me all the time, what's wrong with this? How do I change this? I want that student to understand. And so during the lesson, I'm always quizzing them on what made that ball do that? Well, what's that ball doing, first off? Well, I went to the right. Well, wait a minute. How did it go to the right? Did it go straight right or did it curve right? They're not even looking at that. And if we don't see that and don't understand that, we're getting ready to give ourselves the wrong medicine if we think a pull hook, which I don't see. I don't see people pull hooking. Pulls and slices go together. Pushes and hooks go together.
Yeah.
Now, do we hit a shot every once in a while that looks like a pull hook? You bet. But do people really pull hook? That doesn't make any sense. Show me a divot. A lot of times I'll see somebody that says, there's that pull hook I was talking about. And if they've made a divot, I have them come back and go, take a look at this divot. Where's that pointed? Well, it's pointed to the right. Exactly. How do you get pull out of that? The ball looks like a pull hook. But if you call out a pull hook, you're getting ready to give yourself the wrong medicine.
Yes,
And
understanding how to analyze what your problem is and
Right.
then correct it. And that's
So-
not that easy to do.
That's
for
right.
most
So
players.
that's where video is helpful. And I find today I don't use a lot of slow motion video anymore. I don't draw a lot of lines anymore. And when a student sends me a video in super slow motion, I send it back to him. I said, send me the real thing. I want to see your swing. I want to see you swing. I want to see the rhythm. I want to hear the sound. I want to see the balance. I want to see you swing. I can slow it down if I need to slow it down. But your ball isn't going to lie to me. It'll tell me exactly what I need to know. And I'll show you on video that your ball and what you're seeing on video is the same thing. It won't lie. So
The ball never lies.
it doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. And everybody that says, I hit it everywhere, they don't hit it everywhere. There is a pattern to their misses. And if we're not looking at a student that is hitting the ball really well, you're looking at one of two players. You're looking at somebody that's either pulling and slicing or pushing and hooking. There's nobody pulling and pushing. Nobody. Nobody swings to the right on one swing and swings to the left on another. They'll swing to the right every time. Now, the club face may come in different and send the ball 3 different places. And they go, I hit it everywhere. Just watch the ball. Let the ball coach you. And if every student can get better at letting the ball be their coach, I've always wanted to do this article where the golf ball, I wanted to have an article where the golf ball was talking back to the player. And the player's hitting, and the player's saying, I didn't shift my weight. I came over the top. I did this. I hit off my back foot. I'm scooping at the bottom. And the ball's curving off to the right. And the ball could talk back and say, would you please close the face? Turn your grip over. Let's fix this fade. Forget about shifting your weight. It'll take care of itself. If we knew what the ball was saying, it's almost like I go to China, Sandy and I go to China to teach golf sometimes. Now the language barrier is unbelievable. And we need interpreters. So a lot of times I feel like I'm just an interpreter between the player and the ball. It's like the ball is talking a foreign language. And the player doesn't, what's he saying? Understood the language that the ball is talking to you in, we'd understand. It's no different than going to a foreign country.
That's true.
And we're always coaching, trying to get players to understand impact. There's a few variables there that produce that ball flight. Do you understand the language that is talking back to you in? It's fascinating, isn't it?
It's totally fascinating, and it's
That's-
always
that's
to
what-
me it's always a pleasure to see what's going on and how it's going on.
Yeah.
So if someone who wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably 2 ways. Our website is LaBauveGolf.com, and you can get us through that. But you could also get either Sandy or I through email at either Mike or Sandy at LaBauveGolf.com. Mike at LaBauveGolf.com.
Great.
Shoot me an email. We're in Phoenix 7 months out of the year. We're in Colorado at a wonderful place, the Roaring Fork Club, in the summertime. and we do a few corporate outings. So we have a diverse set of things that we do that keeps it fun. But we're at the Westin Carolyn Resort and Spa here in Scottsdale. Great spots. We're very blessed.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. And hopefully until we meet again, you can keep it in the short grass.
Thanks, Bernard.
All
Great
right,
being on.
take care.
Thank you.